Good morning, beautiful people. It is Friday, June 5th. Another week is wrapping up here. I think this has been a week that has been obviously very intense for our country, an eye-opening one for our country, and hopefully one that'll make our entire country better. Drew Brees has come out with an apology and then a follow-up to the apology to let everybody know that he was sorry for the way his message came through in that interview. He did not mean it to be that way, and he said he was an ally and not an enemy of the mission. I think that a lot of people are excited to watch and see if that is truly the case. His teammates seem to say, hey, we're going to try to educate him up as much as we can. We're going to try to move forward as teams do. Because when there's a hurdle, when there's a little bit of an obstacle, a good team has the ability to get over it together. Now, how everybody will feel outside of that locker room about Drew is going to be one that's going to be interesting. But I assume that that team will take it upon themselves to make sure Drew understands what this is all about and what the kneeling back in the day was all about, as opposed to the narrative that was getting pushed by somebody else because there was people that were offended by the action in a different way. So we'll see what Drew Brees, he's come out and said he's sorry. Will people accept his apology? I am pumped to see if that's the case. I just don't know. I hope for our country, by the way. I hope for our country, just like with what Tony Dungy said yesterday, which has over 7,500 retweets at this point, over 1 million views, when Tony Dungy said that, you know, if we hear something that we disagree with, let's not automatically just write them off. Let's educate them on why they are wrong. And that was basically what he was talking about with Drew Brees, how Drew Brees can't be afraid to say that, and we can't be afraid to say, okay, I don't agree with you, but let's talk about this. Tony Dungy is a man who's known for having a great coaching record, a man who does Football Night in America, and yesterday he was a man that sent a message basically saying, you know, let's maybe not cancel Drew just yet. And yeah, he should know. He should. And I think that's why all his teammates were so upset, is because in the locker room during the kneeling protest, we were front row for the conversations of learning what was going on. And I think the fact that he forgot that and the thing, a lot of the players were like, come on, Drew, like this was not what it was about. You knew that. We thought you were on our side. And Tony said, hey, Let's talk about this. Let's let him know that he's wrong for this and let's move forward. And I think that resonated with a lot of people because I think a lot of people understand that although they might not have gotten the entire effort of the social injustices before, and they're finally being woken up to it, right? These people are potentially the George Floyd murder that happened was the first time where they finally looked at themselves and said, you know what, there's a problem here. Those people are going to have to be educated on things. And I think we are doing that through process. There's a lot of self-research, I assume, happening by people on the internet as they're watching these protests and they're watching these people speak, especially George Floyd's funeral yesterday, just kind of reignited that conversation for a lot of people to have with themselves to make this a better America. And I think a lot of people are telling Tony Dungy, like, no, Tony Dungy, Drew should know, write his ass off or whatever. And then there were some people that were like, oh, Tony Dungy, he's scared to speak up for Drew Brees. Like, there was never the right thing to say. But I do think the anecdote that we should talk to people that we disagree with and educate them and help them understand why they're wrong. Or maybe, how about this? Maybe learn something and see, oh, I see where you're coming from. You're still wrong, but I see where you're coming from. That's what Tony Dungy was trying to say. It resonated with a lot of people, got a lot of views. I think we were on, it was on news links from both sides of the political aisle. I think that is something we can all rally behind. And I think, just like I've said this entire time, I think all of this that we've gone through is going to make us a better place to live. I hope so. I very much hope so. Because once you start learning stories and putting faces to situations, you start becoming empathetic about them. And then once you start having empathy, bingo, bango, now we're starting to make some real change. And that's where we're at, I think. But I think a lot of conversations are going to have to happen. I mean, I assume a lot of people didn't think the conversation was going to have to happen with Drew Brees because he was already part of these conversations in a massive way. But these conversations are going to have to happen with people. Let's have them. Let's get better. Let's learn from each other, and let's come out on the other side of it. And sports are doing just that as well. Sports are finding ways to figure out the roadmap back, and the NBA has laid out one. The MLB seems like a long shot, but the NHL seems to be really happening. To talk a little bit about that, at Nick Maroto, hockey is going to happen, it feels like?
Yep, Phase 2 starts on Monday. Players are allowed to go back into facilities. They have to keep social distance, of course, but we're on the right track. They've also agreed to the format with 5-game play-in series, and then the rest of the playoffs will be 7-game series. It sounds like July 10th. Training camp can't happen before then, but after then, it's good to go. Probably start up maybe the 22nd or 29th of July.
Look at this. The NHL has happened. I saw big, handsome Geno Malkin hopping on his plane to come back to Pittsburgh to train a little bit. Had some cool glasses on. Shout out to NHL Rumors Daily, NRD, making plays, reading through all of these things. The NHL's coming back, pumped up about it. 24-team tournament. It's going to be good. And the Pittsburgh Penguins right now are plus what?
I think they're 11 or 12,000.
1,200. 11 plus 1,100 plus 1,200. Let me tell you what Sidney Crosby's been doing during this entire quarantine, okay? Sidney Crosby actually turned his living room into an ice skating rink, and he's just been skating laps like Apollo Anton Ono, okay? He's just going back, back, back. His legs are going to be this big whenever he comes back. He's going to be in more in shape than he's ever been. Pittsburgh Penguins plus 1,100. Go ahead and take out a hammer and hammer that thing.
Right now, even better at FanDuel, they are the 9th best odds, plus 1,800.
Oh my God! Get a hammer at Tone Diggs, our Italian friend. Diggs, the NFL has never really had the conversation that they weren't going to operate.
Correct.
Everybody has said the NFL is going to play. Stephen Ross, the Dolphins owner, came out and said, hey, we're going to play. It's just whether or not we're going to be with fans or not. You look around the world and how things are happening, Diggs, and you're an expert in this type of thing. You think there's going to be fans in the stands in the NFL this season?
Yeah, guaranteed. At least 50% filled for all stadiums.
Texas has jumped up from on June 1st, it was 25% of stadiums are allowed to be filled. Now they're like, hey, make that thing 50%. We just had the first day in a long time with no COVID-19 deaths in New York City, and it feels like people have been on top of each other more than since COVID-19 has started. So since there's no death, now granted, what will happen after this with this whole thing? I mean, there's a lot to obviously prepare for, but it feels like we're potentially coming out of this thing a better country. Okay, we know a lot more about each other, and with sports, with probably a greater appreciation for being around humans in public and enjoying a spectacle outside of your house, as opposed to being locked down and seeing it inside with the potential no people around.
I think the best sign is, because like I saw Florida, like the cases are going back up, but no one's like panicking. Like they're not like, you know what, we have to go stay at home again. Like this is what's going to happen. Like,
I think it's going to be like the flu.
Yeah.
And that is going to sound crazy in like 30 years, 40 years when I'm talking to my grandkids and they're like, oh, can't come over, got the coronavirus. It's like it's the flu or whatever. I'll be like, you will never know. You will never understand. When this son of a bitch came flying into him, you know what? The entire world shut down. Now this kid's just hopping around taking a pill for it. That's probably what's going to be. Coronavirus is going to be. Now, listen, must hammer home the fact that I am not a doctor.
Okay.
I have never ever read a book in my life. Not a single book has been read by these eyes in this brain. I am not a doctor. But I feel like by reading what the people who read a lot of books and what they're saying and listening to what they're saying, it feels like the coronavirus is just going to be something that we're just going to have to deal with until we go forward. And just like the flu sometimes takes some people out, I feel like coronavirus is just going to potentially be a new normal. And you know what? Hey, you're a real pain in the ass, coronavirus, but we're just going to have to deal with you here forever, I feel like. Ty Schmidt, baseball is nowhere near coming back, it feels like. But Trevor Bauer told us that it is 95% to 100%. Jet Passon on ESPN this morning just said that he feels like in the 11th hour they'll get something done. What is your feelings towards baseball? As one of the only diehard baseball fans I have ever met in my entire existence of life here.
Tough at first. Didn't think there was any way it was going to get done. But when you look at what Jet Passon said this morning, the amount of money that they're going to lose when they divide it by all the teams, it's basically $10.8 million per team that they would lose. I feel like that's a very eatable number for a lot of these teams. So I do think something is going to get done, luckily.
Only a $10 million difference on whether or not they go to what the players want to do versus what the owners want to do. You split that in the middle, by the way. What is that? $5 million difference then, if you think about it. And that's how many hats? Who knows? They'll sell that in 1 month. I think they do get a deal done. That's good news. Jason McAfee's here looking very handsome. Viva Lazito is here, about to get on the phone with Shams Charania from The Athletic, senior NBA insider. Evan Foxy's here. Beard's looking fantastic. And on the phones, 1-833-622-3331. Boston Connor.
We're back, boys. We're back, boys.
Who's back? The Celtics?
Oh, the Celtics are back. The basketball is back. I'm just trying my best not to hit the mic with it.
A lot of people talking about the Eastern Conference being wide open over there. Only 9 teams available to get in down there in the Orlando tournament if this thing gets voted through. And the Celtics, you feel very good about. Since the beginning, he's felt very good about the Celtics team.
Very good. I've had the championship bet for quite some time, but if Kevin Durant comes back, we will be losing in the first round.
Intern Mitt is here and joining us from the NBA world, senior NBA insider for The Athletic. This man knows everything about everything. The other day, I asked him about what this 22-team tournament layout was. He sent me a message. I told him, Shams, that makes no sense. He sent me back more. I understood it. I feel like this guy knows what's going on more than anybody else. And yesterday, he was out faster than a Woj bomb. The Shams, I don't know. I don't want to title it because it will. This is probably a big moment for you. You start beating everybody else to the punch here. Ladies and gentlemen, Shams Charania.
Yeah, boy, Sean!
Boy, Shams!
Woo!
Appreciate you guys. How's everything?
Oh, great. Shams bomb is not, you don't want a Shams bomb. Shams bomb ain't bad, actually.
No, that's pretty good.
Well, Shams bomb.
I'm gonna let you guys decide that. You have a lot more creativity on that than I do. So I'm gonna let you handle that.
Well, it was awesome to see because all your hard work is really getting a chance to shine at this moment. You beat them by 2 seconds in this. Now, for those that don't know basketball, well, that guy right above there, Adrian Woj, is known for knowing everything about basketball before everybody else. We're talking draft picks, trades, you name it. He knows who's going to win games somehow before everybody. Woj knows everything. In Shams, this quarantine has really had a chance to showcase that, hey, I might be younger, I might not be in this game as long, but I can read just as fast as you whenever memos and proposals are sent out. In Shams, you've been crushing it. This 22-team layout that they're going to do down in Orlando, what has to happen for this to completely get initiated? There's a players vote today. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, the NBPA will meet on a call with all of its players to, it's expected that this will go through. Adam Silver didn't just propose this 22-team format for it to get shot down by the NBPA. He's been having extensive dialogue with Michelle Roberts, Chris Paul, all the NBPA Players Union leadership. So that part is expected. What is still up in the air is what are the exact protocols in the bubble? I think there is still some lack of clarity for the players. They're still trying to understand what will it entail. Are we gonna be allowed to have family members at some point? I'm told no guests until the playoffs, and what will that entail? Will it be a couple people per round as you advance in the playoffs? So there are a lot of questions in terms of what the exact protocols and health and safety measures will be, and also the financial ramifications. What will the salary cap structure look like in the summer, for free agency that starts on October 18th, tentatively, and I'm told a moratorium that will only last 2 days. October 20th, it'll be lifted so guys can sign contracts. Usually the moratorium can be anywhere from 6 to 7 days. Now, because of this truncated schedule, 2 days. So there are a lot of financial and health and safety questions that the players will have to discuss today.
Did you say truncated there? That's a great word. Is that something you keep the dictionary near in dear?
I only bring it for the Pat McAfee show. That's the only time I will talk.
How did they land on this idea? There was a lot of conversations happening about what they were going to do. The fact that they're all going to play 8 more games and add that to their previous record, and there's 13 teams from the West, 9 teams from the East. If the 9 seed is within 4 games after those 8 games are played, 9 plays 8, 8 plays 9 for that 8 seed. I mean, how does this become the layout? Because it seems rather complicated, but then once you figure it out, it's like that kind of makes sense actually, because it gives everybody kind of a shot in this thing. How did they figure out the 6 games within the 8th seed you can come? That's why there's 5 in the West, only 1 in the East. How did they get to this point?
Yeah, and you make a great point. That's what Adam Silver wanted to do, is he wanted the teams below the 8th seed, because, if you're just going to go directly to the playoffs, you're not giving Portland, New Orleans, San Antonio, whoever, a chance to make the playoffs. Portland and New Orleans were 3.5 games back of Memphis, and you could make a very, very strong case that either New Orleans or Portland was going to make that 8th seed. So at least this way, you give them some regular season games to have an opportunity. Like you said, it was pretty, it was difficult to understand at first, but you said it best. Like if Portland or New Orleans stays within 4 games, they will enter a play-in tournament, single elimination for the ninth for the 9th seed. So if the 9th seed wins game 1 of that series, they take it to game 2, and if they lose game 2, then they're done. So I think it's just giving any seed below 8th an opportunity. Now, why did they land on 22? I think that's the question around the league still. Like, why not just go to 20? Why not just leave out Washington? Why not just leave out Phoenix? Those teams, 5.5 games out, don't really have, those teams aren't that good. That's just the bottom line of the situation.
Shams, professional athletes.
Those teams are 5.5, 6 games out right now for a reason. And I think that's why Portland, they were the one team that argued, and voted, no, we do not want 22 teams because this is not the smartest way to return for us. It should be 20 teams. So obviously Portland should be happy that they didn't go directly to the playoffs, because they were only really considering 16, 20, 22, or 30.
Will they play the 8 games that they're going to play to finish out the regular season? Will those games be within your own conference? Because it would make a lot of sense that would have to be the case.
It'll be based on the current schedule that all these teams have, but obviously it'll be the next, the team that is actually going to be part of the bubble. So, if you're, Portland, and let's say you have the Knicks on your schedule for your next game, the Knicks obviously are not there in Orlando, so they'll go to the next game. And obviously the scheduling, which day it is, that'll all be sorted out by team.
Is this all? Did they do this because Damian Lillard said if there's no chance of me getting in, I'm not going to play, and then Portland ends up being the only team that votes no for this idea? That seems very interesting to me.
Well, what I'm told is the the NBA and Adam Silver took Damian Lillard's words very seriously. I think Damian Lillard did provide a lot of pressure on the league to make sure that they get it right in terms of bringing in whatever format you come back. You have to give teams that are outside the playoff bubble right now a legitimate opportunity to make a run and try to get to the playoffs. Michael Jordan, here's something for you, Pat.
Yep.
Michael Jordan was very, very vocal in the last owners call last week, and basically said, guys, Adam Silver, the rest of the owners, we need to value player safety, and you can't be bringing back players for meaningless games. It's not right. And I'm told that really rang true throughout, Adam Silver, the league office, and the rest of the owners.
Sham, say that the Pelicans and Trailblazers are both 2 games within the 8th seed. at the end of these 8 games? How are they doing tiebreakers to see who is that 9 seed that will play the 8 seed? Is it just based off of the normal regular season tiebreakers, or how's that going to play out?
What if there's 3 teams tied at 9 and there's 1 team at 8?
These are great questions. I don't have the direct answer for you.
Come on, Sean!
Sean, what do you mean?
Sean, what are you here for?
You guys caught me. I will when I do find the answer out. I will at you guys and let you guys know. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting to see. Like, will they do head-to-head record? Will they do regular season record? Will they do in-conference record? There's still a lot, Pat, that's up in the air. For the NBA, I think this was a gigantic step in the right direction, but they still, they're working on a 65 page health and safety protocol guideline, kind of like the MLBs, and so there's still a lot that they need to get across the finish line.
You're not allowed to say this because it's probably not allowed to be admitted, but we're seeing underground videos, okay, on the internet of these NBA teams are running full courts right now. I mean, we got guys running 5-on-5 right now that are professional NBA players. We are not going to rat them out, but we have seen the videos of these people running full court. I don't think there's any conversation that the brand of basketball is going to be anywhere. I think this could potentially be some of the best basketball we've seen in a long time. Is that an inaccurate statement, or does that sound right?
No, I mean, these guys are staying in shape, and I talked to someone who was at one of said workouts. Now, I don't know if this was 5-on-5 or LeBron James. I reported a couple weeks ago LeBron James was having these private workouts, monitoring everyone's health and safety situation. Everyone involved was tested for coronavirus. So he's been working out with players, 1 to 2 teammates, really for the last month plus. And so, have other players done the same? I think that's accurate. And so, I was told that one of these said workouts that guys are putting on, weight in a good way, muscle. Like, I think players have used this time off to really work on their body and try to get in game shape. I don't think anyone wants to come back and be that guy that's gotten bigger and out of shape for the wrong reason.
What were you going to say there, Shams? You want to say fat? You're going to say fat. Whoa, Shams.
Whoa.
Shams, let it out, man. Just let it out of you there.
I was looking for the right word here. I got to come with elevated word and verbiage on your show.
Oh, respect. Kevin Durant. Okay. There's been videos on Fox Sports 1 of him shooting. I don't know if they're recent or if they were long ago. I guess the Nets have come out and said that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving won't play. How does that happen? Because this is going to take over everything. I would assume that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving would want to be a part of something where they're going to run 6 games a day, they said. I mean, this is going to take over the internet. This is going to take over the media. I mean, this feels like something, if you're a superstar player and you can play and you have a chance to win a championship with 8 games and a couple best of 7 series, you go and get that. But they were saying, since it is the 8 game setup into the playoffs, there might be too many back-to-backs for them to clear or something of that nature. Why would the thought be that KD and Kyrie won't be playing, and also John Wall in that conversation as well?
Yeah, my feeling has always been, in talking to people involved with all these players and just in general, given what's going on with this hiatus and really the world at large, is that the players that were already listed as out for the year, John Wall, Klay Thompson, Steph, obviously Steph Curry came back. They're not playing anymore. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, that these guys would not return whenever the season resumed. And I'm told, within the Nets, the expectation still remains that Kevin Durant will not return.
Oh,
but again, it'll be up to him. It'll be up to Kyrie Irving. I was told the other week that Kyrie Irving has resumed workouts on the court. And so, you're putting the preparation in to try to play. But at the end of the day, it's going to be tough to ask these guys after, 3-4 months layoff to return to the floor after a year off in a truncated schedule. I'm using the word again, in an abbreviated timeline and just try to ramp everything up. It's tough. And Kevin Durant came back, early, quote unquote, prior. And I just don't know how much, incentive there is for him to do the same. Whereas next year you can really have a fresh approach to the season.
I guess that's the much smarter way to look at it. I just wanted to see Kevin Durant get wet out there and Kyrie just shake people. I feel like this is going to be like All-Star Game stuff. I think it is going to be great basketball and a great basketball mind, a man that's going to take over this insider world, the NBA, for the next, 40 years probably, and then you retire, sail off into the sunset, 30 years of insiding?
I'm just trying to follow your lead. So as long as you're going, I'm just trying to follow you. So let's keep it going, Pat.
I don't know enough people, man. Are you a speed reader?
I would hope I can read fast and I can type fast. I've had some typos because of the urge of trying to be quick, but I'm trying to sharpen it up. So hopefully I get to the point of 100%. But I feel like right now 95. I'll have the occasional typo.
Scoopsy Diggs wants to talk to you.
Shams, is the older coaches like Pop, are they going to have to coach from a nursing home down in Orlando, or do you have any other inside information?
Are they zooming into the game? Because I'll tell you what, Zoom is terrible. The face is behind the words. If Popovich has to zoom in, I think he's going to be very upset with the delay.
Yeah, I would be shocked if it got to the point where coaches are coaching, like you said, from ballrooms or anything of that sort. I think Adam Silver, I think he was saying that this is an option. I wouldn't expect that personally. But could they wear masks? I do think it would be an optional, situation for the coaches. But I don't, it would shock me if they put these guys in a position where, listen, you can't coach and you need to stay in a ballroom. I do think they'll give everyone the option to do what is safe and right.
So you said a lot of teams are terrible at basketball and some players are going to get fat. Who do you think is going to win this thing if you had to look at it? The New Orleans Pelicans right now are plus 12,000. What if Zion comes out of this quarantine with, like, when LeBron decided to slim down his body a little bit a couple years back? What if Zion just comes back and he's just shredded, ready to go, and just takes over the whole damn thing?
Yeah, I mean, and I've heard Zion Williamson has stayed in shape. So for Pelicans fans, for the NBA, that's, and he's been staying in supreme basketball shape. And for fans, that's music, obviously, to their ears. I still go with the teams that, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Bucks. And these are all teams that during the quarantine process, I'm told they've really engaged each other in terms of team chemistry. And, I know that doesn't mean a lot because you can't really do much physically with each other, but I do think there is a long way that does go. So my gut has still been in that little, three team group.
LeBron's team, the Clippers team that has 10 players. We were talking about the Clippers bench is so deep, which might help them because people might not be in game shape yet or whatever it is. You got a deep bench, you can move in and not drop off too bad. Clippers are obviously going to hammer, but I will hammer the Pelicans at plus 12,000 just strictly because.
Pat, also one thing to monitor, it might not be, we talk about the physicality and how guys will look coming back after this. I do think most of the guys have stayed in shape. The biggest thing to watch is mentally. How will these guys, after 4 months off, I think, in talking to veteran players, that's what they're monitoring with their teammates. How are they doing mentally? Because this is a long, long layoff to then just restart and try to re-engage.
Well, there's a lot happening in the world that kind of makes sports seem like a very minuscule thing. So I think you're right. The mentality of being in a zone and focus again, and when you're day-to-day with the team and travel, hotel, here, you kind of get on a one-track mind. But now there's been a lot bigger things happening in our world that people have had to. I just think it's going to be such a good escape, though. 6 games a day they're thinking about happening down there. Obviously, the NBPA has to okay that. But we can't thank you enough, Shams. You're the best, dude.
Pat, I appreciate you guys. Be safe, be healthy. I appreciate it.
Today, you were a little bit off center on the triangles there.
I'll be better next time.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shams Charania. He's good, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He has to read through all that stuff. So that's what it is, reading through all the memos that get released as soon as they get released and then finding out the little nuggets that are worthy of being told to humans.
Wait till he has to read through 65 pages of minutia about the health coming back and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, that's what he had to do about when the practice facilities were thinking about opening. Mm-hmm. There was a 16-page manifesto basically about what could happen, and he's a sports reporter or whatever. He's talking about the sports, and then all of a sudden he's going to dive through. Okay, so if there's somebody within 10 feet of another person, you have to wipe down said place 14 times. Okay, that would be the insider game. Is not an easy game to be in.
No.
People are always like, what Schefter, what? He just gets information and Woj, and that sounds like the best gig or whatever. It's like, I don't know about that. You gotta be on two phones at all times, basically. One checking for messages coming from people that want to break news. One checking for memos that are being released that you have to beat everybody on. And if you're up there in the first or second person to break news every time, you're an insider. But if you start falling back to fourth or five, which Twitter, by the way, is like this, people find out things, then it's your entire career, basically.
You got a typo, you get slaughtered online, too.
Oh, yeah, you can't do a typo.
Can't be afraid to be annoying either.
And conditioned to like answer your phone every time there a text message comes in, like, hey, this could be something big.
And can't have a genuine conversation with anybody.
No.
About anything.
Yeah, I haven't heard it yet, no.
That'd be tough.
I can't hear it.
That'd be very, very, very tough. Sean does a great job. We're thankful for it. We're back on the other side, 27 minutes after the hour. This is Friday, June 5th, the Pat McAfee Show. There's a grown man with face paint on. So you're Big Nut.
I am, and you're Little Nut.
Well, I've had a few of those in my life. Hey, I'll tell you what, Big Nut. I hope to find you one day on my wedding night. Big Nut!
Little Nut!
You did a great job, too. The lines are straight. No DUI problem there. You're really doing a great job here, sir. Hey, Big Nut, I love everything you're about, bud.
Because we are going to win the game.
He just spit in my mouth while saying that. The most likely team to make the college football playoff is the team that is in Columbus. He said khakis are way too close to that team from up north. If you don't put black pants on right now, you're going to get booed out of Columbus. So I went with the black. Makes me look thin. And whenever I say two letters, the place goes crazy. O-H! Yeah! Ladies and gentlemen, Eddie George. That offense, though, led by Justin Fields. He has 41 touchdowns accounted for, only one turnover. I don't know how he isn't the Heisman favorite right now.
Well, he certainly has a chance to make a stick at that today, certainly next week.
I was supposed to be in Penn State native Lion. And Mike McQueary told me I wasn't Penn State material.
Okay, Herbie was your quarterback. He was a senior. You were a freshman. What was he like as a teammate?
Oh, he was great, man. Big shoulder pads. Kurt could run for days back in the day.
Every single bone in my body. Steve, how you doing, boss man? They're down 6-1. She wants to flex on the gram. He says, lady, we are getting slaughtered by the Pittsburgh Penguins. No.
Do I do a chair? I thought I need to do this. Click, clack.
If you're listening to this show right now, I want you to take a second and look down. When was the last time you shaved your junk? It's been a while, don't lie. Let's take a second to thank our sponsor, Manscaped, for holding you accountable to get rid of the funk and shave your junk. Manscaped is the only men's brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming and hygiene, and is forever changing the grooming game with their Perfect Package 3.0 Essentials Kit, the perfect tools for your family jewels. The Perfect Package 3.0 kit comes with the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0, which is a waterproof cordless body trimmer, and a ton of other liquid formulations to round out your manscaping routine. This third-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to prevent manscaping accidents. Millions of balls are about to be nick-free thanks to Manscaped's advanced skin-safe technology. And of course... excuse me.
Oh, you all right?
Yeah, excuse me.
Felt so good down there. Got choked up about it. Sad.
And of course, let's not forget about the Crop Preserver, an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. You already put deodorant on your armpits, right? So why not put deodorant on the smelliest part of your body? Subscribers get a new replacement blade refill for your lawnmower trimmer delivered to your door every 3 months, making sure your trimmer always stays fresh and clean. And for a limited time, subscribers get not one, but 2 free gifts.
Woo!
What? 2 free gifts.
What? Really?
The Shed Travel Bag and the patented high-performance anti-chafing Manscaped Boxer Briefs. Woo. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code AMERICA at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code AMERICA. Your partner, your body, and your balls will thank you.
Amen. Amen. Way to go, Ty. Got choked up in the middle of that damn thing because it's just so beautiful to shave down there with there. Great conversation with Shams Charania, senior NBA insider from The Athletic, before the break there. Broke down a lot of things. There's still a lot of things that have to happen for this NBA tournament to go down in Orlando, but they got pretty much a setup. They wanted to build the 8-game for the rest of the regular season so they would have more teams involved. He believes that potentially Damian Lillard's statement about how if we don't have a chance to make it in, I'm not going to play. Like, which, by the way, smart. Mm-hmm. Why get injured if you're never going to make the playoffs and it's coming back off of a 3-month hiatus of doing anything at all? So they said, okay, let's try to make this as fair as possible. Adam Silver seems to get it right. Mm-hmm. Adam Silver really does seem to get it right, that guy.
Well, did Adam Silver get it right, or did Michael Jordan get it right, and they just listened to Mike?
They can help. Well, there was a tweet right that was sent out that said Michael Jordan is the most
respected voice in the room was the description of it.
Which is very interesting, by the way, because Isaiah Thomas, I don't think feels that way.
Or Horace Grant, for that matter.
But you listen to LeBron talk about Jordan, like whenever he was 16 and got a chance to play that pickup game or whatever, he was talking about my favorite basketball player of all time. I assume that 90% of the current NBA, Michael Jordan was a guy that they all looked up to. I mean, the whole world looked up to. So I would assume if Michael Jordan comes out and says, hey, this is something you should think about, I would assume that the rest of the NBA follows suit. I just would assume that they're like, you know what, OG here says this, we should think about it. Even though he was playing for $33 million and Scott Pippen was making like $400 bucks. This guy seems to know what he's talking about. LeBron also, there's another big name. We talked to J.R. Smith about Zito. I just sent you Darius's number. We talked to J.R. Smith about how LeBron's just like he's a teammate. Like that, his biggest thing is he wants to be remembered as a teammate. So he and Jordan are two very, very different operating athletes at a high level. They're just two very. His exact quote is one we can't say on radio again, but it was great. He's the Lion's king of the jungle. People bow down to the lion, but the Tigers over there like, hey, I'm a bad mother trucker too. Like, let's not get too crazy. Two cats operating in two different fashions. One has this, one has that. Now, granted, that would still say one's the king of the jungle, one isn't, but I don't think the tiger views the lion as the king of the jungle. Only people from outside view that way. So I think that is kind of an interesting conversation to be had. But when LeBron came in and said, hey, we want to play, we want to come back, and then Jordan's like, hey, let's do it smart. Adam Silver has to sit there now, and he has been able to kind of wade through and like pick good ideas and explain why things that maybe people were upset about aren't going to happen the way that they want them to happen or anything like that. I think Adam Silver has done a great job managing all of this stuff. He's good, man. He is he is good at what he does. Now, inevitably, he'll be hated. Mm-hmm. He'll have to make a decision. And a commissioner of a league, you're going to be hated regardless. But it feels like he gets it right more often than not. And his players love representing the NBA, it feels like. Yeah. And that is not something that happens everywhere.
No, I think it goes back to what you said. Like, he actually cares and respects what his players want to do, which is why they're more than happy to.
It's not just lip service, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of the big thing is whenever you say, yeah, yeah. And then all of a sudden, it's like there's some coaches. I've never been a part of a coaching staff that had like a leadership executive committee that meets with the coaches or whatever. But you hear a lot of coaches be like, hey, I want to hear from the locker room. Okay, I want to know what's going on in the locker room. And then you hear stories about people telling coach about what's going on in the locker room, and then the coach basically scolding the person for talking. It's like there's a lot of things that are said sometimes that don't just match up with the actual actions. And I feel like Adam Silver is a guy who says, hey, we're going to wait, we're going to listen, we're going to do this. And I feel like he actually does that. And I would assume that's not an easy thing to do as a commissioner of the league because you got to please so many people. Adam Silver has figured out how to do it.
Also, how much does it help that Michael Jordan is in these owner meetings using his voice? Like if Peyton Manning was an owner of an NFL team in these owners meetings, like his voice would carry a lot too, and then also maybe lead to some better decisions.
Well, and also Mark Cuban's in there. We talked to Mark Cuban. It feels like the NBA is filled with people that, the players love representing the NBA. And that is something that I hope that the NFL can get to at some point. Joining us right now is a man who's a teammate of mine. He was a second-round draft pick for the Patriots.
Yep.
Second-round draft pick for the New England Patriots. Then he came to the Colts. The dude played corner. He played safety. Every team meeting I was in, he was the smartest dude in there when it came to ball. And watching him grow off the field as a business entrepreneur and a media personality, everything DB host, ladies and gentlemen, Darius Butler.
There he is!
Attaboy, D-Butt.
Appreciate you for having me again, Pat, man.
Thanks coming on. Every time we talk, I enjoy the hell out of it. Right now, the world is in an interesting place. And you were one of the leaders on the Indianapolis Colts whenever it came to the discussion about these things. I mean, I learned a lot from you. I learned a lot from a lot of other guys in the locker room. And that was my entire take yesterday about Drew Brees, is it was like, hey, when the kneeling thing happened and the world was getting split up about it and there was a lot of drama being targeted into the NFL locker rooms, the conversations that were happening in there were so deep. They're eye-opening. Yeah. They were insightful. I think a lot of guys who are maybe upset about the potential protests being against the military in America, they were hearing stories and they're like, oh, damn, okay, we're with you. And it was interesting listening to you speak because your dad, very accomplished member of the military. So, I mean, this is something that hits home with you pretty strong. What are your thoughts right now on how the Saints are going to have to educate Drew, hopefully re-educate him or learn him up or come together as a team? What do you think about how the NFL is right now, especially with Drew Brees potentially being the face of what needs to be learned in America a little bit more?
Yeah, that was, I mean, it caught me. I wouldn't say it necessarily caught me off guard. The only thing that caught me off guard about Drew Brees' comments was just him saying in this climate. Because if you go back to, 2016, 17, that was pretty much, a lot of people said similar things. It's just a different climate. Like, I think everybody's eyes are open a little more this time around. So it surprised me, him, as aware as he is on the field, for him to kind of lack that awareness, when this question was tossed to him. So, but I think it was important that it happened and more people have more uncomfortable conversations. And I just think when the narrative shifts, it's, it takes away, it takes away from what people are really talking about, what people are really protesting. I feel like Drew and others should and do understand that. And it's hard for me to give him a pass, honestly, because, like I said, we had those tough conversations. We were in those locker rooms together. And I remember specifically, we actually in 2017, after we kneeled, we had a conversation amongst the leadership committee, coaches, front office, et cetera, and just kind of talking back and forth. And I remember and we kind of put some initiatives in place, which was basically kind of, okay, we're going to do this, but you guys are going to stop kneeling, right? That was kind of the compromise. And I remember leaving that meeting, and Adam Vinatieri, he called me, and Adam Vinatieri, obviously in his 40s. White guy, white male in America, obviously privileged, and he's, America, everything that America stands for. Like, he called me, he's like, hey, man, I don't want you to feel like, you're selling yourself out or you're selling your people out or anything like that. I want you to do what you feel is right. I support you all the way. So it's not like I can look at Drew or anybody in that position and be like, he doesn't understand. Because if Trevor Lawrence gets it, if Joe Burrow gets it, if Carson Wentz gets it, like, I can't give, Drew Brees that pass.
Vinatieri's brother, a member of the Special Forces, I believe, in the military as well, from South Dakota. I'm not sure what the African-American population percentage is in South Dakota.
Can't be that much higher than North Dakota.
But I do believe that's why the locker room is such a sacred place, though, because you have people from all over coming together and learning about each other and learning stories and things of that nature. And I think whenever the word white privilege is stated, right, I think there's always been the spin. It's like, hey, white privilege means you come from a lot of money. White privilege means, and it's not necessarily that's what that means, right? Because I didn't come from a lot of money. I did not come from a lot of money. I had to work my ass off to get where I'm at. But there was other aspects of life that I never had to experience. Alvin Kamara released a tweet last night about things that have happened to him because of how he looks in banks and other things of that nature and how he's accomplished. And I think that is almost the thing that I learned most about in that locker room during the kneeling protest. It was like, yeah, police injustice is obviously a problem. I mean, that is something that if somebody's going to abuse their power, that is going to be a problem, especially whenever it seems to be preying on neighborhoods of color more often than not. But also talking about the day-to-day. And I think that's the things that maybe a large majority of the white population who's maybe never encountered or interacted with somebody from a neighborhood that is vastly different than their own doesn't really understand. I asked you last night, I was like, hey, this Alvin Kamara situation, would you mind telling one or two of those types of things that white people might never think about? Like, hey, might never even think about, like how the world is a much different one if you are darker complected.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different, it's literally, it's two Americas, honestly. And it's really as simple as that. And, if we're being honest, when this country was built, it was really built for white people. There were certain laws and certain things that were said in documents, but at the time they were put out, we had slaves at that time. So liberty and freedom and all that stuff didn't apply to everyone. And even though the things in the letter of the law has changed, how it's enforced, a lot of it is still the same. And when you showed me the Kamara, and I'm like, oh man, like I got tons of stories like that. And it's not like I think I heard Joe Stasiak or something like that say something. He had some comments that really pissed me off, just saying, keep yourself out of situations where police are called, et cetera, et cetera. But it's literally like I've been like, so earlier in my career, I was living in a spot in Bar Harbor, which is a super nice area of Miami. And, that's where I was staying off season. And I would go out to my workout like 7 a.m. And me and my boy, we were leaving 7 a.m, coming out of the complex, like a little boutique condo. And it's probably like 8 units. So we're coming out, certain places where it's just like in your neighborhood, you just know it's certain stop signs that you just kind of breeze through because nobody's going to be moving at that time in the morning. So kind of, and I mean like 2-3 cars come, a car and a motorcycle come out. Hey, this, that, and the third. Take me out of my car. Ask me, can they search the car? I tell him no. He throws his K9 in the car. I'm giving him kind of back and forth. Then I tell him, he kind of finds out who we are. We're both NFL players. My dad works in law enforcement in the next county over, and then it was a completely different tone. It was a completely different interaction. And there's tons of those. I've been pulled over for, exchanging my child. I met, my daughter's mother one time, and we had a meeting place basically, and I was basically there 20 minutes before her. So I'm sitting there waiting, exchange my kid. I pull off, go one way, she goes the other way. We both get pulled over. It's taken out of the car. They try to tell me sit on the ground. It's just so many instances. And then as an adult, as a grown man, as a professional, like you're interacting. I've been with white guys. And we been in the car and they get pulled over, and it's a complete different interaction. Like, yo, what the hell you pulling me over for, man? I'm over here. I'm doing follow the speed limit. Really, like I pay taxes. I pay. Get out of my face. And it's like, whoa, like. You can talk to the police now.
Hey, you are being awfully aggressive.
Whoa, hey, relax. Put your hands up. Relax. Lower your tone. And it's a privilege to not even have to, because I've had to have tough conversations with my children. Like, hey, this is things you have to do. This is why things happen. This is why the condition that we're in as a community. And if I'm a white guy, I don't even have to have those conversations. It's a privilege to just say, hey, I'm not even gonna put this on. Let's throw this on. Let's not even be aware of what's going on in the world. But my kids are well aware of what's going on in the world, and that itself is a privilege.
Darius, we got to get to a break for radio. Will you hold on 4 seconds we'll continue on YouTube in like 5 seconds?
All right, for sure.
Let's just wait it out. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show, Friday, June 5th.
June 5th. Whew.
Hey, it's flying right now, Darius.
Well, we're only at halftime. We're at halftime.
All right, here we go. We're back. So those types of conversations that you're having with your, by the way, beautiful children. How many? You have four, I think four?
5 girls.
5 girls. I'm sorry. 5 girls. Yeah, he's got a whole lineup. By the way. He's got a whole basketball lineup down there. Dad of the year, too, all off season. It was awesome to follow you every single off season with your kids. But when you have those conversations, you just have to tell them, like, hey, sometimes, or not all the time, you have to be careful of how you could potentially, because this is something I was told by a teammate of mine. I forget who it was. It might have been Eric Walden. It might have been Ewald, to be honest with you. And Ewald was, we were just having a conversation, I think, and I don't know what state of mind we were in, but we were having a conversation. And he was like, you don't even have to worry about potentially being intimidating to somebody walking down the street. He was like, just like if you and me were to walk down the street right now, I'd walk behind you, you walk behind me. There would be people who just inherently would look at me and automatically get defensive, just strictly by how I look. He's a guy who had dreads. He was tall and things of that nature.
Big tattoos.
Yes, and I think that was something I didn't really realize either. It was like every single day, literally, if you're trying to make your life better than it's ever been, which is supposed to be the American dream, you're trying to make it. A lot of the times when you end up in spots where you have to get to keep going, your every single day is just going to be much different than anybody could ever imagine.
I mean, literally, I had an example yesterday. I'm in Canton, Georgia right now, which is kind of on the like a suburb outside of Atlanta. My brother just bought a home, and I'm in his neighborhood. And we were driving around last night. It was probably about 9-10 at night. And we were. He was like, "Hey, let me show you this house," because I'm looking at his backyard, and it's a little different than another one in the neighborhood. He's like, "Oh, remember we were talking about earlier? I'm going to show you this house. It's almost done. Like, let's go check out the backyard." So, kind of, obviously what's on the heels of what happened to Ahmaud Arbery, and I don't even know how far we're away from that, but even the roads look similar. He pulls over and he's like, "Hey, let's go, check." I'm like, hell no, I'm straight, bro. Let's we can check this out tomorrow when it's light out, when it's like I'm cool, bro. Like, just because, neighbors look out the window and they see 3 black guys getting out of a truck, pulling up, like you like those whatever inherent fears they may have, that you walk around with that, and it's kind of it's heavy. And that's what you experience. If you growing up in a black community is one thing because everybody looks the same. Your interactions with white people, honestly, are only really in schools, the police, or other instances. And then when I was growing up, we didn't have. I think what'll help now is with the youth, and as the younger we get, we see each other more. So we see each other just living, just being normal humans every day. Like you said, you see me and my kids, you see those interactions. So now you don't just have to depend on other people telling you, what black people are, what white people are, what Mexicans are, what Asians are. Like, you see them. Like, I know these people. And then we have the extra advantage of being in the locker room. So we can really have conversations, really know the ins and outs of people. So I think that helps, and that'll kind of cut that divide. But it's really different. And like you said, as you go up and you start living the American dream and you go to nice neighborhoods. So my children have been in predominantly white schools. They went to school in Indiana. They went to school in Florida, and in both neighborhoods, they were, probably less than a handful of black kids in their class. So even certain ways they would do their hair, that would get picked on, or, you've seen, I don't know if you remember that kid who was wrestling one time, and he was in the tournament, and like before a match, he had to cut his dreads to continue in a match. Like, those things don't really, just living in that, and it's just, it's tough, but I definitely think we're getting better, and it's obviously super, super, super unfortunate George Floyd lost his life. But the young lady that recorded it, I'm glad she was there to record it, and I think it's really going to spark some change in this country and this world.
It was eye-opening, I think, to a lot of people that were deciding to not look at things that were being shown to them before, honestly.
Yeah.
I think it's because of the quarantine. I think it's because we all have been through so much shit, basically, right?
Yeah.
I think for the first time in a long time, a lot of people were experiencing life in a much different fashion than they had before because they were being told to stay confined in their homes. And I think it kind of, I don't want to say it maybe grew a little empathy for other humans, but I feel like there was a little bit. And then when the George Floyd video came out of him being murdered, it was like the first time in a long time I feel like, damn, there's a real momentum swing behind it. And I hope we just can continue to ride that damn thing, Darius.
Yeah, hey man, I'm with you, man, and we've had I've had more conversations this week, or this last week and a half, with people, black and non-blacks, about where we're going and what's happening, and what the type of things that need to change. I think it starts with the conversation and it's followed by actions. Even with the the large companies and people in positions of power, you using your platform. I told you, I reached out to you earlier this week, like, hey man, thank you, man. I appreciate you using your platform for what you're doing, and others, man. So it's amazing. I hope we just really start having that conversation and really come together, and eventually, hopefully, it's my kids. It won't happen overnight, but my kids or their kids, eventually we're all living in the same America.
It's going to take time. I think this is something that's going to take time, because it's going to be hard to change people that are 100% set in their ways. But I think people that were just like kind of set in their ways are starting to become a little bit more awake to things. And I think once that, it's going to take a little bit. I don't think
for sure.
I don't think anybody's thinking that this could potentially happen overnight, but I do believe that there's a wave of like going forward, we're going to be in a good spot. Do you know, and I asked you this last night, and you said you try not to dive into the laws and politics of things or anything of that nature. I've seen this 50A repeal, which is a law, I guess, that hides cops, like police, like it hides their record from the public. So no other cops know that, like for instance, Dave Chauvin had 18 police misconduct charges before he murdered George Floyd. But I guess there's a law instituted that basically covers that up, so nobody can know that he had 17 or 18 things of that nature. And then there's some other stuff. Is there anything you know of that people that are maybe just coming awake to this entire thing, what they can make noise about, or what they can raise a little bit of hell about to try to change, so we can really try to expedite this whole process of maybe not tearing down a community, by the way. It's about building up another one. And I think that is the biggest thing. Is there anything you know of that people could potentially try to make some noise about?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it's not an attack on the police force or the police. We all know great policemen. I know a ton of them. I have law enforcement in my family, and I know if shit breaks loose, 911 is one of the first numbers I'm calling. So it's not like all police are bad, but when you get a situation where you have police policing the police, it's an issue. It would be like in football if I say, hey, Chuck Pagano, do you think that was a pass interference on your guy or nah? He's like, nah, probably not. That's like the situation that we're in when these cases come across. The unions. It's really, really, really hard to get fired or reprimanded as a police officer because of the strength of these unions, the fraternal order polices. Like that. I think it needs to be some independent people that come in and kind of take over these cases and say, okay, get all the evidence, say this is what happens, because the way it is now, it's not going to change. Now, if a guy starts getting 20, 25 years or start getting the same sentences that a civilian would get, like if that was George Floyd's knee on Chauvin's neck, like Floyd would have been arrested immediately. He would have been, having the charges. Like it would have been no protest. Would have had the country or the world wouldn't have had to be protests and riots for all these 4 officers to be charged. Like it would have just happened. So I think it should be, similar when it comes to police. And trust me, they have tough jobs, like tough ass jobs. So I think most people are aware of that. But at the same time, you guys are. They're trained, and that's the job you sign up for. So I think, you have to attack that job with some responsibility.
I appreciate you so much, man. I always enjoy a conversation with you. Now, granted, you had slightly worse hands than I did, but you are an incredible football player.
It's debatable.
It's not debatable. These hands.
It's debatable.
These hands, man.
You were up there, though. You were top 5. I give you top 5.
That means you were 6. That's a shame you were not top 5. It's a shame.
I get this. You had the best hands for a white guy on our team.
Thank you. Wow. Big see?
We had T.Y. Hilton. Oh, no, we had Jack Doyle, too. Sorry. You're number 2.
Damn it.
Forgot.
I still think I got Jack, and you and T.Y. can get it too. I'll tell you what, I only had glove on one hand. If I had gloves on both, I'm not 100% sure what I would have been able to do.
That's a fact. Got to get all the facts.
See, the issue is, I didn't move much when I had to catch a ball. So I think I didn't get a chance to really showcase, moving and catching, because I'm sure I wouldn't have been absolutely terrible at that. I'm sure.
Speaking of moving, I still think about that pass you threw to Dewey. Dewey McDonald with Dallas. That just pissed me off. I don't know why I just thought about that.
Well, you guys had to go on the field on your own 18.
Yeah, we ended up getting blown out. So. That's probably why.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Memories.
Hey, great talk today. I appreciate the hell out of you. People are going to learn some stuff from this.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Hey, no problem. Not yet, but hopefully, like in a couple months from now, you'll be able to run through your brother's neighborhood there. Not even think about
Hey,
it.
man.
Hopefully.
I'll keep you updated.
Darius Butler.
Yeah.
Thank you, Darius. Woo! All right, we'll be back in a couple minutes here with Hour 2. That was a cool convo. I enjoy conversations with him.
Good guy.
He's a good dude because his dad was in the military. His dad's a cop. And the neighborhood he came from, it was awesome. It was awesome to chat with him. It was awesome to learn about him. And I hope people take that. Like, hey, we should try to learn about each other here, And that sounds like such a impossible thing to do, especially in the world that we live in. And it kind of sounds like, a lot of people are saying, oh, Pat, you're just virtue signaling.
That's the worst word.
The fuck does that mean? So that means that I'm talking about something good that I would like to see happen? Is that what that means? Does that mean that I don't truly mean what I'm saying? Well, if that's the case, you could go eat a whole bag of dicks. I did. Like I
Those
don't
two
think
words together.
I don't think there's anything wrong with being like, hey, maybe we should learn about each other. Maybe we should move on. Maybe we should try to make this place better for everybody. And that's what we're going to try to do. That's what we're about. I got to go take a piss, but I only got like 30 seconds to do so. This is the Pat McAfee Show. Good morning, beautiful people. It is Friday, June 5th. We are back for Hour 2. Shout out to Darius Butler, who just joined us to talk about life, not only in the NFL and his whole thoughts about that, but life in general for him, being a African-American man, good friend of mine, teammate of mine, hell of a football player, great talker, businessman, big fan of Darius Butler and what he's going to take over and do. And I think the conversations that have been started here in this last 10 days or however long it's been since the George Floyd murder, I think have been so good for our country. I mean, there's going to be people that are going to hate it, but I think these conversations are good conversations. And I think there's things that are attainable, too, for us all to move forward in a beautiful fashion. Sports are coming back. Sports are coming back. We talked to Shams Charania in the first hour, the senior NBA insider for The Athletic. He talked about how we got to a 22-team tournament with 8 games left in the season. Then if 8's close to 9 and 9 plays 8, and then we have a 16-team tournament with 8 from the West, 8 from the East, and all this stuff. He talked about how we got there, how they wanted to make it fair for all the teams that were within 6 games of the playoff spot. There's a couple teams that are there that shouldn't be there, and he said they were terrible basketball teams. He said there's a couple teams that are just absolutely terrible basketball teams that are going to be down there, but Adam Silver in the NBA wanted to do this in a manner of fairness, so everybody everybody has a chance to make it into the 16-team tournament. Milwaukee Bucks are number 1. LA Lakers currently number 2 with their record. I mean, it's shaping up 6 games a day they say they'll have down in Orlando. They're probably going to have like 20-some cameras on the court at one time. This is going to be magical. There is a conversation about whether or not the coaches who are a little bit older, i.e. Pop, D'Antonio, the guy that looks like Jim Carrey, there is a thought.
Oh, yeah, Rick Carlisle. Oh, yeah.
Coach Gentry there, too. I got a chance to watch him work down at the New Orleans Pelicans game. He is hilarious, by the way. Yeah. This dude is hilarious. I went after him after the first game because they had Zion get introduced second or something like that. So I said, what is this guy? And then he was monitoring his minutes because he was coming back, didn't want him to get hurt and all this stuff. And I was like, this guy, just let him go. Like, the reason why he's on national TV is because Zion, just let the guy play. Introduce him last. Hey, here we are. Then I got a chance to watch him work and meet him and things of that nature. Hilarious, dude. The things he was saying to the refs.
That's what I was. Great interactions with the refs, and hopefully with no fans, that stuff will be able to hear.
His subtleties to that ref was next level.
It was awesome.
And he would even cackle at himself afterwards. Like he would walk like this, and he'd say something to the ref, and then you see the ref get all offended, and then he would just kind of laugh and then call out a play.
And then you were egging him on the whole time after you heard it the first time. Like, let's go, coach, get him.
Let him hear it.
Yep.
Let him hear it. I got him to chuckle once or twice. I'd assume the intros got him going a little bit. But the older coaches are potentially going to have to be coaching from a remote location, which did not make D'Antonio, Popovich, Gentry, any of those guys happy because they're like, oh, so we're just assuming that I'm more unhealthy than some of the slobs that are younger than me out there? Like, what are we doing around here? Which is a very true statement. But I don't know if you can test an immune system. Because I think that's the big fear, right? Is true. The older you get or you have any pre-things that's coronavirus will get in there and drop an elbow on it. But at this point, coronavirus, I'm not saying it.
Don't.
Is anybody really worried about the coronavirus at this point?
We don't want to jinx.
Got to be eyes on that second
From
wave.
what I've seen, I think it cannot survive the heat. That's what a lot of people are saying.
Well, and I just don't think that anybody... I don't know. Because the same people that were telling you can't go outside were also covering when people were outside on top of each other.
True.
So it was kind of I don't know who's giving the information, what information is what here. But it feels like sports are back. Woo! Pumped up about it. The MLB, they are a long way away negotiation-wise, but everybody thinks that since it's only a $10 million difference per team between one proposal and another proposal, that's not enough money to make this thing stop in the 11th hour, just like Trevor Bauer said that they were 95% to 100% going to get something done. I think the MLB does just that. The MLS is back in Orlando.
Yes!
The NFL is going to be back. And less than a week from today, Sharon! The AFL is back in Australia. Aussie Rules Football. That's my name. That's the name of the thing. That was the guy that created it. Mr. Thomas W. Sharon.
Thomas Wallace Sharon.
Hold on, let me...
Is that...
I got a message from them. This Sharon, this one right here, this Sharon has been individually handcrafted the very same way that Thomas William Sharon intended when he stitched the very first Aussie Rules Football in the year, what year?
1897.
Okay.
1860.
Okay, 1880. Proudly manufactured in Australia, this leather game ball has been inspected and improved by our dedicated craftsmen, made by hand, loved by foot. Thomas W. Sharon sent this to the office. Big shout out. June 11th. 5:50 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. Listen, DVR it, Fox Sports 1. The AFL is a sport that you're going to fall in love with. And in that game on June 11th at 5:30 a.m., there's an American, the only American that has ever really done well in the AFL. He's 6'10".
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Mason Cox also goes by the name Coxzilla.
Oh, yeah.
And he's good at the sport. Like, it's not just like we have an American that's over there. We have a guy that's good at the sport. There's kicking, there's action, there's tackling, there's scoring, there's this, there's that. It's a great sport. I had a one-night stand with it right before the sports stand our hiatus, and I can't wait for it to come back. Shout out to Mr. Thomas William Sharon, by the way, for the
Good guy.
He's probably
Actually,
dead,
I don't
huh?
know that.
I would assume he's dead.
Thomas probably dead, but the kids. Shout out to the kids sending this thing.
You think he
For the
was...
kids. The kid. What's that? What are you going to say? Something
think what?
incredibly disrespectful.
You think what about Tom Bill?
Sure sounds like you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to ask if he was an outlaw because that's how Australia was created.
Oh, yeah, because Australia was created because they took the people that were incarcerated.
Yep.
Yeah, prisoners.
Prisoners to Australia and said, you know what, we don't have to deal with it anymore. We'll put them out here with these snakes and these spiders. We've heard about this. One of our sailboats arrived at this island, and we tried to go there, and three of our mates got killed by a snake. A kangaroo punched them in the face, and then a spider was big. And they thought, oh, perfect, that's where we'll send our prisoners to. And the prisoners said, okay, now we got a chance to do this thing, build up an entire continent, build up an entire country, build up an entire lifestyle. In their sport, AFL, Aussie Rules Football, is electric, and it's coming back June 11th.
Can't wait.
Did we just do a history?
Yeah, we did.
Pretty much.
Is that accurate, what we just said?
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
It was actually the Santa Maria, I believe, that landed there.
Oh, well, that's because Nina and Peter went the opposite direction.
The Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria.
Do you want to buy
Why you drinking sangria? Nachos, lemonheads, in my dad's boat. It won't go down because my...
Let's go to Michael in Texas. Michael, what's going on, bub? Mike.
Big Mike.
Mike.
Hey, yo, what's up, Pat?
Hey, yo, what's
How's
up?
it going?
Just hanging out, Michael. What have you been doing, man? Huh? You just hanging out down there in Texas? What part of Texas are you in?
I'm in San Marcos, Texas, so Central Texas.
Oh, nice. Okay, never been there. Hope to come one day. What do you want to talk about, Michael?
You already touched on it a little bit. I was going to say, who do you think will win the NBA COVID championship? And if you could own any basketball team, what team would it be?
Great question, Michael. I appreciate that question. He's being quiet. I don't know if the baby's sleeping or if maybe there's he's not supposed to be listening to this show, probably paying attention to something else. We appreciate Michael in San Marco. Is that what he said?
Yep.
San Marco, Texas, for calling in. The NBA team that's going to win the COVID championship, right? COVID Cup in hockey going to the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Obviously.
They're at plus 1,800 right now on FanDuel. Wow. Go ahead, get in there and drop a Macho Man Randy Savage on top of it. Why is it so bad for the Penguins?
Well, it's hard to make any projections because they haven't played forever, but I'm assuming it's all based off of where they finished when the season ended.
Where the Penguins were then is not where they are now.
That's what I'm saying.
After 3 months of a hiatus, going into their houses and lean-tos in Canada and Russia and all over the world, the only thing that the Pittsburgh Penguins do is waddle their asses to the ice and skate in condition. You're going to see a team that's going to be reminiscent of the Miracle on Ice team that just had the best cardiovascular ability out of anybody on planet Earth, and that's why you hammer the Pittsburgh Penguins at plus 18. You think Sidney Crosby?
Fresh legs, baby.
You think Sidney Crosby hasn't been just deeking around the living room for the last 3 months? You're out of your mind. Plus 18, hammer that. Or 18 hunch, hammer that.
Hammer that.
But there's a lot of other really good teams, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
We're currently standings 5th in the East, and they are 5th in the East also in these odds.
So they just took them exactly where they were before.
I think they are the only $2 favorite, though, in the first round matchups against the
I have
Canadians.
I have trust that Sidney Crosby, Gino, Malkin, Letang, and the boys all were getting ready. And maybe that goalie played catch with somebody with you know what I mean? Maybe he'll just learn how to just lift the damn glove up and just let it get in the way. You know what I mean?
So another question, do they start Matt Murray or Tristan Jarry for the playoffs?
Oh. We talk about 2-time Stanley Cup champion Matt Murray?
You are.
Yeah, that's, by the way, 2-time Stanley Cup champion Matt Murray. Awesome rookie year there where he came in and won the Stanley Cup in lieu of my guy Flyer, and then he comes in and wins another one. But it seems like since that point, it might be 2 decades ago, nobody has played catch with the guy. Just play catch with him so he can move his glove side. That seems to be his only weakness.
Potentially good news for Connor's Bruins, too, depending on who wins the round robin and gets seeded there with the teams already in. They will reseed after each round. So the highest seed will always play the lowest seed going forward.
Yes! Doesn't matter. You're going to run into the Penguins.
How am I going to fill out a bracket?
You're going to run into... Yeah, you can't fill out a bracket. Yes! You just got to bet game by game, day by day, life by life. And here's a life that I would like you to hammer. Penguins plus 1,800. And in the NBA, to win the COVID championship of basketball, I like very much. I mean, for real, don't put a lot of money on it, but it's plus 12,000 for the New Orleans Pelicans.
$10.
Zion might just become Steph Curry from 3? We don't know.
Yep.
Did he become Steph Curry from 3? Possibly. Is he still going to be able to take off from the college three-point line and dunk it? Yes. Is that something that could potentially dominate an 8-game season and then a playoff run while everybody's staying in the same area? He's been the closest to those AAU tournaments and things of that nature. He's the youngest potentially in the league as a superstar. Is his body, since they were resting him before the quarantine, is his body most prepared to make this run because he's young and in shape and ready to go? Or are the Los Angeles Clippers, who have 45 people on their team that are very good at basketball, going to run this thing? Or how about Giannis? You think Giannis took a single minute off during this quarantine?
No.
Absolutely not. I think the NBA championship, and I think this is why the NBA COVID championship, I think this is why everybody's so pumped about it. 6 games a day, and I honestly believe it's going to end up being one of 3 teams or 4 teams, depending on if Kevin Durant plays and Kyrie Irving plays, which they're saying they won't, because why would you rush back from an injury? Well, it's because the entire world would be watching, and if you're a superstar, I'd assume that is something you potentially want to be a part of. I'm not 100% sure.
Also, Kyrie Irving, very good friends with the late Kobe Bryant, so I feel as though he might want to play just for him, too.
You know how the money might not be right in the NBA for this? The money might not be right. If you're the shoe company, now might be the time to, right? Because a lot of people are going to be watching this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And basketball shoes sell very, very well. If you're a shoe company, that might be able to be a way to get in, because guys won't be making as much, I assume, off of their contracts because there's no fans and things of that nature. Now, granted, the TV rights, they're still going to make money, and there's going to be a lot of people watching them. Maybe they'll do a rev share, too, with the media split, because they don't know how many people are going to be watching and things of that nature. But the thought of a shoe company potentially getting in here, I feel like that's how you can offset some wages a little bit. If you're Nike or something of that nature.
Theodora?
You're talking about, I don't have them on right now. I have my Reebok pumps on.
They're awesome.
Pump them up. Pump it up.
They are sweet.
Pump it up.
See that?
Pump it up.
The issue with these ones is you can't Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they're going to be pumped.
Yeah, these shoes are very tight. They have been for like 5-6 years. That's why I very rarely wear them, because I can't untighten it.
That
But boy,
seems like a flaw in the idea.
yeah, well, it's a nice secure fit though. You know what I mean? This thing gets on my foot and
Oh, my God.
so I'm picking the Pelicans, and Fight Island, speaking of the chokeout right there, is back, I believe, right?
Yep.
June 11th, July 11th.
July
11th, Fight Island is happening. Dana White was on Pardon My Take. Today's episode did not reveal where Island is, but did say it is happening and it does exist. So as soon as Fight Island gets announced, I assume we're all booking one-way trips.
Oh, yeah.
Are we moving to Fight Island?
Probably should.
Fight Island potentially looks like what they thought Australia was going to look like whenever they took all the prisoners from the British Empire and put them there. But instead, the Australians were like, no, you can't beat us. We're actually going to build this place up. Fight Island, it's meant for one thing and one thing alone: carnage.
Do you think they have a hotel there? How are the guys going to stay there, or are they just flying out, fighting, and then flying back out?
They probably have those things you see in Bora Bora and stuff where you live on top of the water.
Smart. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because those are things that you can just drill down into the ocean or whichever one it is, and then just have them live in little huts on top of the water.
Genius.
And then you just kind of bank and hope that no waves come. What up, Z?
I'm pretty sure you can't fly after like getting like, if you have one of those like things that, I forgot what her name was, but it was like humongous bruising. I don't think you can fly after that.
Because the pressure,
pressure.
yeah, you probably have to. Might be a week-long stay at Fight Island for some people if you really get your ass kicked.
2 weeks.
They would have to have a hospittal though, right?
Oh, they would.
They will have probably a FEMA tent.
Oh, like Firefest.
I want. They're missing out. If the posts of the octagon are not palm trees, huge oversight.
No, they will be.
Yeah.
It's Dana White. Come on. I'm hoping we see a guy potentially run up the cage off a palm tree, round hat. Grab a coconut, come down, coconut kick to the face. Fight Island's carnage.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. 15 minutes after the hour, we got to get to a break. Brian Callen, stand-up comedian, will be joining us in about 25 minutes, hopefully sending us into the weekend in a beautiful fashion, a comedic fashion. What's it like writing jokes when you can't do a show? I don't know what I'm going to talk to him about.
It's been a lot of movies.
He has. He's been in a lot of good movies.
Good brain, too. Good brain, but he can't do any shows, right?
Nope.
Him and Brendan Schaub, I think, did something down in Houston where they rented out, and Burt Kreischer's running out drive-in movie theaters. Smart. And they all come from that same world there. Yeah. So we'll talk more about that, what Brian Callen's doing, and I'm sure he's going to tell some electric stories. That's in about 20 minutes. On the other side here, we will answer some phone calls. We'll chit-chat with the people, maybe some YouTube questions, you name it. This is the Pat McAfee Show, Friday, June 5th. I could see how a guy like Richard Sherman, who's been in the league a long time and has had success, could be like, hold on. This young little isn't going to dap me up. But on the flip side, Baker's like, well, you're enemy number one for me. Because that's how Baker has always operated. And now Richard Sherman says, so you don't see any difference in the way I shake everyone else's hand, and the guy who stands back with the petty shake was BS, and I took offense to it, then turns and runs off. It's not that big of a deal. It swept the nation yesterday. It was controversy like no other controversy in the NFL world. Joining us right now, Richard Sherman. Everything you do and say is going to get talked about. Do you agree?
I would agree.
Baker Mayfield is also a man that everything he does and says is going to get talked about. Do you agree?
I wouldn't agree as much, but sure. So I put my hand out, just out of courtesy. And he gives me a little petty slap on the hand. And I took it as disrespect. People can say, oh my God, he shook your hand. Like, what? Oh my God, you were wrong. You can say whatever you want. I don't give a damn.
Is there anything you'd like to say? Like, hey man, I apologize for the misquote there. I did see on video the dap up, although it was a bit petty. I apologize for everything that happened, or are we just moving forward?
Oh, it's going to be a bit of both. It's definitely my bad. I never want anybody to have to deal with some shit some stuff that they didn't do, And so I'll probably reach out to him via text or social media to actually get a hold of him and talk to him in person. First off, that was a great name y'all came up with, like Dapgate. I was crying laughing. But yeah, he definitely deserves an apology, and that's my bad on that.
Richard, I'll tell you what, bro. To show the humility right there to say, hey, my bad on that entire thing. Once I watched the film back, it was different than what I thought. I think a lot of people are going to have a lot more respect for you. They should at least.
What's the number one sign of a bad home security system?
You tell me, bub.
I'll tell you. A home security system that's so complicated you never use it.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
This is
just wow.
This is exactly the type of security system Simply Safe has spent a decade fighting against. They believe that simple is safer. You okay?
What do you do?
What just
What do you do, Z?
He dropped something. I don't know what it was.
I just grabbed my coffee mug.
Okay.
Did he drop something? Z?
I don't know.
You dropped the mug, Fox? Nah, I didn't drop the
Oh,
mug.
this is just a Zito.
Yeah.
Simple Fit.
Simple Fit?
Simply Safe
Hey,
was
there we
designed to be easy to use while protecting your whole home 24/7. Order it online with the click of a button. Open the box, place the sensors, plug it in, and your home is protected around the clock. No technicians or salesperson has to come and disrupt your house. You don't need to pay any outrageous monthly fee.
Hey, why is Connor laughing at you right now? Zito?
What are you doing?
I'm not laughing at him. I'm laughing with him. Okay?
We're trying to make $80 here.
$82.
82. I
Half of
apologize.
Pizza Hut Friday.
Can I call the action real quick?
Please do.
You got it. Head to simplysafe.com/Pat and get free shipping and a 60-day money-back guarantee. That's simplysafe.com/Pat to make sure they know our show sent you.
Way to go, Zito.
$2, baby.
I can't believe your roommate is laughing in your face about how
son
you
of
read.
a-
That son of a bitch. Let's go to Chris down there in Miami. He said he got a couple locks for us. Let's go, Chris. What do we got?
All right, brother. So we got these UFC 250 locks.
Oh, wait,
wait a
Chris.
minute, Chris.
I remember this.
Yeah.
Chris, do not give me.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you remember me.
Do not give me the BS locks, okay? I need big name fighters that I'm going to watch fight so I know who I put my money on when I'm watching the fight.
Fair enough, fair enough. And by the way, last time when you hung up, big mistake because I told you the heater was starting and it kept going.
Well, none of us know that. We hung up on you immediately after you. Can we get, Chris, this is it. You'll be judged. What have you done for us lately? Is what professional athletes are judged by. I don't think that is what should happen for you. But Chris, in Miami, what are your locks for UFC 250?
All right, brother. We're starting off with Sean O'Malley. Right now he's minus 550. Obviously that's heavy, but the real value is betting on him to win by decision. This one's going the distance. He's going to win plus 250 by decision.
Okay, Sean O'Malley. Let's send it over to Mo. Mo. Win by decision plus 250. Okay, does everybody think he's going to knock somebody out there?
That's what everyone's thinking, man. But honestly, I think the line's way too inflated, and I think that Eddie Wineland, he's a vet. He hasn't got knocked out recently, and honestly, he's coming off a win too. And I don't see it. They're 135ers too, so honestly, Sean O'Malley's got to just have some iron in his fist, and I don't see it.
Okay, win by decision plus 250. Sean O'Malley, appreciate that. How heavy are they? What?
135, I believe.
135 pounds. I think I was in third or fourth grade. I don't even know how a body does that. How does a body do that?
That's a good question.
That's awesome. I wish I was a 135 pounder. You probably fit in everything in Abercrombie and Fitch, Hollister, all those things that I could never fit my legs into. You probably get nice H&M clothes Foxy gets to because imagine being 135 pounds. Foxy, you're tiny. How much do you weigh?
175 pure American muscle.
40 pounds lighter than
40 pounds lighter than Foxy. That's insane. Good for those guys, by the way. That takes a lot of discipline. Mitt, how much do you weigh? 160?
175.
Oh, the same as Foxy?
It's all beer weight.
Who's the alpha?
It's all beer weight.
All right. What do you have any other locks other than Sean O'Malley win by decision plus 250?
Yes, sir. I actually got three more. I got Rafael Assunção against Cody Garbrandt plus 115. Cody Garbrandt's chin is done. He's getting smoked.
Rafael plus 215, 115?
No, plus 115.
Okay, Rafael. All right.
Good odds.
What's next?
Chase Hooper minus 145. Again, he's going to strangle poor Alex Caceres. I don't even know why the line is minus 145.
It should be a lot more. You're saying, okay, he's going to strangle that guy.
Well, it's been going up. I think when I got it, it was 145. I think some books still have it there. Right now it's like 165, 175. Like I said, this is probably going to be a first-round strangulation.
I jumped on early.
Why'd you tell us what you're getting it at and not what we could get it at, Chris? You know what I got? I got Sean O'Malley. He's minus 500. When that thing originally opened, I got it at plus 100.
Wow.
Really? Yeah, that was the first bet.
Great bet.
I got Sean O'Malley at plus 100.
Wow.
See how everybody else does. All right, what's the last
Well, look,
one?
my book is an underground sketchy book, so right now they're at minus 185.
Can't promote that. Need to get FanDuel in Florida stat. Let's hope that happens soon. What's the next one?
And the last one is in the main event, Amanda Nunes versus Felicia Spencer. Well, the line on this one's minus 650. I'm not doing that. I like the over 2.5 rounds at plus 105. Felicia Spencer's got a chin. She went 5 rounds with Cyborg. Lock it in.
Okay, Chris in Miami.
Hey, boy, Chris.
Should we clap? We don't know.
What have you done for me lately? Right? Monday, maybe.
Look, hey, and let me preface this too. The record's 91, 62, and 2 on the year.
My record,
as you wish.
do you remember how good I was at UFC? What was I? I was 100-0 there for a while.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that.
It actually might be better.
On Action Network. Y'all can check it out.
You can edit that afterwards, Chris.
No, you can't.
Yeah,
not
you
once
ain't.
the bets go through. No,
Nah,
you
nah,
can't.
you
Check
ain't.
it out.
Nah,
Check it out. Check it out.
The people listening to the radio are like, two guys just gotta be so upset about it. Okay, so we got Sean O'Malley wins by a decision plus 250. Old buddy's got a good chin he's going against. He's only 135 pounds. Would have to throw his entire body through a fight to knock him out is what he says, not me. Rafael plus 115. Chase Hooper minus 145, which is probably minus 185 at this point. And then Amanda Nunes to make it take longer than 2.5 rounds at plus 120 or something like that. Okay. Why is the main event minus 650?
She's very good.
How's that the main event then if it's minus 650? Just because she is a savage, huh? I don't know much about the human cockfighting, but I'll watch it every time it's on. And now I'm going to put some action
this weekend?
That is this weekend, yes.
I would hope so. If Chris was calling us for 2 weeks out, I would.
True.
I'm going Felicia.
I have a tough time betting on guys to go to a decision. Like, I want to see that guy knock a guy out.
Yeah, but I feel like it's going to a decision more often than not these days.
Yeah,
there have been more decisions since the fans have not been in the building.
Yep.
Oh, is that because the energy, you can't get hyped up as much, which means you can't deliver as big of a suckhole punch to knock somebody out?
Good question.
It's easier to hear the trainers, too.
Oh, yeah, because you know what somebody else is going to do.
Yeah. Check that.
He's going to punch you in the... Sweep the leg. No, I'm not going to do that.
He's going low.
It's like the Cam Newton, Clay Matthews situation. What's your wheel? Oh, you watch film, you like that. It's kind of what's happening with the trainers in there. Yep. And then obviously you got Cormier telling people what to do as well right there from the side. Yeah. One of the greatest fighters of all time. Let's go to our guy in Houston. What's going on, boss?
Hey, what's up?
What's his... Yeah, but how did you think I was going to remember that?
Adonijah.
Yeah, but how did you think I was going to remember that? And then you type it in here and you don't give the...
I don't know, actually. The thought process, when I'm looking back on it now, I don't think there was any.
But this is our guy. Adonijah is our guy down in Houston. What do you want to talk about, brother? I didn't want to say your name wrong. That seems pretty disrespectful.
No, it's fine. I get you. First of all, I just want to say, per my sources, I want you to jump the gun on Twitter with this one. But the Pat McAfee show... #1 show in Indiana.
Oh! Hey! All right. Yeah. Thank you, man. It means a lot. It means a lot.
Big news.
No, what I wanted to ask, though, was clearly yesterday, that was your audition tape. Look at the football game, huh? Since you're going to get it, who would you want with you?
Okay, I think what he said there, we lost you there for a little bit, Adonijah. I think it's... Oh, no, I can't. There we go. This thing is getting a little finicky.
A little finicky?
A little finicky, a little fickle.
Touch and
This
go.
thing's getting a little fickle. It just, in the middle of that one conversation, it said, do you want to update right now? And it was like, no, I don't need to update. I need to hang up on somebody. And I couldn't press the update button because it was either update later or update, and then I had to set a time on when to update.
Oh.
It's like, don't, just get out of my way. I'm using this thing for one time a day, and this is the time. You're supposed to be so damn smart. Get out of here.
You would think.
Anyways, Monday Night Football, I think, is what he asked about.
Yes.
I believe because you called Madden yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Very similar. Very, very similar to the Madden call yesterday. Congratulations, by the way, to the Saints and Connor. AJ Hawk now owes $5,000 to the George Floyd Family Fund and $5,000 in the YouTube comment section. You can watch that game back, by the way, and go ahead and just put your Venmo in there and say the Saints are going to win. There's no way AJ will be able to tell the difference. And to be 100% honest, it's probably going to be Zito anyway. So Zito, you probably just get money from Zito at this point. AJ's money from Zito at this point. But we played a little bit of a Madden game. It wasn't bad calling. It didn't really get the atmosphere, but who knows if there's going to be an atmosphere in NFL games. The Monday Night Football gig is not a gig that I will be getting. I think we all very much understand that at this point. If I was to get it, though, who would be a cool person to be in there with? And this name was tossed out there last week. Randy Moss would be awesome. And Randy Moss feels like he's the guy. All the excuses that I've been given, by the way, for why I potentially couldn't do it, and this isn't from ESPN people. This is from either people that speak for me or speak about the business and things of that nature about why I probably am not being considered. And it's got to the point where I'm okay, 100% okay with it. Actually, pumped to see who they put in there, and maybe in 10 years we get that gig whenever whatever happens. But I think Randy Moss being in there would be a great hire. Mm-hmm. He's one of the most entertaining people on TV already. I mean, whenever Randy Moss gets going, Randy Moss is unbelievable. Also, he has a wealth of knowledge, not just at wide receiver and offense, but he has a punt return and a kickoff return trophy named after him in college. So you're talking about a guy that has the respect of everybody, including Bill Belichick, who went to his Halloween party, and every single player. Randy. When you get Mossed, it's still something that happens in a game. I mean, Randy Moss, with his incredible personality, his resume, his ability to resonate with people, I think he would be amazing at it. It's just whether or not Randy Moss wants to call games. It is a massive commitment I learned last year about the meetings and this and that and the setup and the production and everything like that. But Randy Moss seems to be he's a Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. So they have the gold code in there. He's entertaining as hell, so people will want to watch him. He has the resume. Everybody likes him. I think Randy Moss would be a home run. You put him in there with Steve Levy, I'd assume that would be a great booth that people would get excited about.
I agree.
And put him in there with you too. I think that booth might not do too bad either.
I'll tell you what, you drop me in there as a third. Could be quite an addition to that thing. But I think Randy would be a great guy to put in there. Randy and I, good dap up, by the way, national championship game. I let him know that he was my favorite player growing up, which he was. And he said, thank you, respect that. And then his son won a national championship.
Small world.
Not a bad night there for Randy. He and I dap up, his kid wins a national championship.
You're welcome.
Just something to think about, Randy. He's my favorite player growing up.
Yeah.
There's just so many legendary stories that come out about Randy Moss. The one where he was on a visit to like Florida State or something, and he was still in high school at the time. And who knows if any of these are true, but that's why he's like Chuck Norris when it comes to like who knows what stories. I guess the alleged thing is that he went on a visit down to Florida State, and somebody started chirping to him somehow, and he was in jeans, and they were warming up in a workout or something like that. And he said there's not a single person on this field that's faster than me. And he outran everybody in jeans, and then he told him to leave because a brawl almost happened. I mean, there's just so many moments of confidence, just pure confidence, coming from a town that not a lot of people make it out of, even though him and Jay Will did because they were on the same high school basketball team. But Randy Moss's story that I think a lot of people will enjoy learning about, the fact that he's so damn entertaining, I think he would be awesome in there. Yep. And that would be a splash hire. That would be Randy Moss is doing Monday Night Football. Holy hell, I would like to watch at least the season opening and see how this goes. Yeah, I think it'd be good. And he's a guy now, too. He is a guy. How about last year whenever they were on the field doing warm-ups and a punt was coming in, and Schefter, you see Schefter like scared or whatever. Randy was doing something. He could sense a ball in the air. Probably somebody in the background looked up or whatever, and Randy moved Schefter out of the way, basically, and he was about to snag this thing in the middle of a TV hit. There it is, right there. Oh, my God, excuse me. I'm going to catch this thing probably one-handed if I have to. The ball goes over, and he just goes right back to work as if it was nothing. Randy looks like he could still take a go route on anybody in the NFL if he wanted to. I hope it's Randy Moss.
I love how he had his intuition to hold on to the person behind him.
Yeah, like,
Lewis Riddick. Make sure the DB can't get the ball.
Yeah, excuse me. Well, you wouldn't have a DB on you in a punt, but I think he was moving people out of there. It did look like it was kind of a deep ball over the shoulder, huh? Let me stack Lewis Riddick here for a second. Let me stack him here for a second. Let me get on top of him here. I mean, it's just Randy.
Good suit game.
I've enjoyed the hell out of Randy Moss on that Monday Night Countdown show.
Have we heard anything on that front? I would assume they have to make a decision about that somewhat quickly here, don't they?
I would assume right now is not the time to make a big decision in their eyes. They don't want to take any attention away from whatever's happening. But I assume that decision has to be made or has already been made, just hasn't been announced yet. You know what I mean?
Sometime before the season.
Yeah, we got to get to a break because Brian Callen, stand-up comedian, host of The Fighter and the Kid and many other things. Incredibly talented brain on this guy. We'll talk to him about what it's like to be a comedian in the world that you're in right now, Mr. Callen. Drive-in movie theater idea by Bert Kreischer is genius. Will you be doing that? I saw you and Brendan Schaub do a show. Good conversation coming up with hilarious individual Brian Callen. You're listening to The Pat McAfee Show, Friday, June 5th. Nice little Yaz here, huh?
Yaz it up!
Okay, here we go. Hop on the elevator. Yeah, Brian Callen's on the other side.
Yeah.
I was told by Del Curry, Scottie Pippen struggles on a golf course, right?
Right.
I was told at that thing that I'm going against Scottie Pippen. The next day, match play, heads up, one-on-one Scottie Pippen. So we decide, like, okay, we could probably have a couple drinks, stay at the casino a little bit longer than we should.
Representing the NFL out of the Shoeless Golf Club of America, Pat McAfee. His opponent, representing the NBA, Scottie Pippen.
You know what I mean? This guy's got 6 rings. Yeah. He's a fucking Hall of Famer. But today he's going to play against me. And then I start seeing Scottie hit some shots that are just like starting to come together. And I'm like, wait a fucking minute. I think I was lied to.
We were lied to yesterday. We were told Scottie Pippen was a terrible golfer. Bro, he's Scottie fucking Pippen.
Going in the back 9, I think I was down 1. Like, we were battling. But I started making putts. And Scottie Pippen went ahead and got real hot. I mean, real fucking hot. I was down 3 with 7 left. And I looked right in the camera, and I go,
so we're down 3 with like 7 holes left. Scottie Pippen's about to get this work.
Scottie Pippen from 190 yards out just fucking dunks it. Fucking boom, bang, and then walks up to the green, gets the ball, camera's on him, and he goes, Pippen ain't easy. Kidding me?
All right, down 4 with 6 left after Scottie Pippen just chips in from fucking 400 yards out.
I was fucking demoralized.
Pippen ain't easy.
By the way, best he's ever performed at golf, because I'm around, better teammate than Jordan.
Yep.
People forget. Oh, yeah, I told Del, I was like, Del, what the fuck you lying to me? He was like, well, I saw it yesterday. He was not great. And Greg Anthony told me, and I was like, Del, he buried me, Del Curry. He buried me. He was like, hey, Pippen ain't easy.
Yes, baby, it's time to celebrate.
Talking about a shotgun of beer after he had beat me, obviously. I like teach him how to do it.
Yeah, put a hole in there. It might spread a little bit, so.
Yeah, so you're going to go here, and then you're going to open and flip up. Does that make sense? Congrats on winning the NBA a couple times, blah, 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 blah. And being an incredible golfer.
Thanks, Paul.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
Hey. Hey.
Damn.
Okay,
That's the
Scotty.
best Bud Light I ever had.
Hey, there's no Scott King up here.
You're right.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show here Friday, June 5th. We're being joined now by a man you might have seen in Bad Santa, Entourage, Hangover, Old School, or you might listen to his incredible podcast, The Fighter and the Kid. You might see him as a stand-up comedian. Ladies and gentlemen, hilarious human, finally coming on the show after being asked for about 5 years, Brian Cowell.
Hey, boy, Brian!
Hey, we can't thank you enough for joining us. I know I've been asking you to come on the show probably half a decade or so, and I'm very thankful you're here. It is 100% true.
I heard it once. I was coming to Indianapolis, I think, and somebody said, Pat McAfee, and I was like, but I'm doing this other thing. I don't know what I said. And then Schaub said, are you crazy? That's my boy.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, sorry.
Well, I'm thankful that you're on now. And the fact you came to Indianapolis, I went to one of your shows, hilarious individual. Right now, the world has been shut down for everybody for 3 months. What have you been doing in the stand-up comedy world? Like, I saw you and Schaub did something in Texas. Bert Kreischer's going to do drive-in movie theaters, from what I've been told. What is the idea and what is the roadmap going forward here?
Listen, man, the show must go on. The bottom line is, people on Instagram were like, "What? You're not saying anything about the protests and the shutdown." And I'm like, "Hey, man, that nobody needs to hear from me right now. I think I'll take a back seat and shut up for a while. And what I do well is I'm a professional jackass. So I consider myself recess. If you learn a couple things from my subtle, nuanced comedy." All right, but for the most part, I'm just here to try to make you laugh. That's what I'm good at. So I try to just stick to that the best I can do. I mean, we went to Houston, man, and 75% capacity, but it was so cathartic. It was just so much fun to watch. And by the way, it was when they were actually protesting and stuff like that. So it was an emotional, heavy time. But when you're up there for an hour, that's your job is just to make people laugh. And so that to me is a privilege. I always feel like I'm of service, if you will. That's the best I can do. I don't know what else to do, man. My cure for COVID isn't coming along so well in my garage. I'm not that good at chemistry. You know what I mean?
Get to it.
I can't go to the protest and be like, guys, I'm a 53-year-old white guy. The argument's a little more nuanced. We're actually making progress. Nobody wants to hear that right now. So what I can do is be an idiot. So
is that your COVID-19 cure in the garage, by the way, I think is a great way to look at it. At least you're trying to help, obviously. But is your content now, is your stories, is it all going to be about this world that we are in? I assume that there's a lot of things for you to talk about for people, and they're going to want to hear as the theaters and clubs and things of that nature start opening back up.
Well, it's funny because before all of this stuff, I'm with Rogan. I'm sitting there with Joe Rogan and Schaub. And we were at the Comedy Store, and I'm talking about, I'm talking about my theory of evolution. I'm talking about whoever invented something. I'm talking about something really light, like whoever designed the giraffe is not the same guy that designed the rhino, because giraffes are basically gay camels, and blah blah blah, ha ha ha. We're joking around, and then Rogan says, "Hey, dude, I was talking to Dana White, and Dana White kind of like suggested to the president maybe just shut down for 2 weeks." And me and Schaub and Rogan were like, "Can you imagine shutting down for 2 weeks? Imagine if they shut the whole country down for 2 weeks." And we're like, ha ha ha, it never happened. Well, here we are 4 months later. So what happens as a comic is that you have all this silly material on, say, giraffes or whatever, and then the world catches fire. And I can't just go. The world is so different 4 months later. I can't just go with the old stuff. So I found myself writing, and in Houston I did. I have almost 40 minutes of new material. I have to, because it's what I'm thinking about, and more importantly, it's more of an emotional state. It's hard not to be affected by everything. It's hard not to be afraid by what's going on. It's hard not to be worried. It's hard not to be worried about your children. And what kind of a world are we inheriting? And is this good? I hope it is. But the protesters marched literally past my door here in Venice, so it's very close. So it's impossible for that not to color your expression. I think any comic worth his salt has got to be a little bit in the business of satire, but also in the business of truth and illumination without getting too heavy about it.
Well, and comedians, this is Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, why Jerry Seinfeld said he enjoys talking to comedians. The brain of a comedian operates in a completely different fashion. You have to hit something at an angle that nobody else is hitting it. The act of surprise or the narrative that you're going to paint is something very, very different. I would assume that a lot of comedians are going to take this as like almost a challenge. Like, okay, we have a job to do in our society, which is hopefully make light of situations. But right now, there's not a lot of situations that you can just make light about because there's some real conversations happening, man. It's a fine balance, I'd assume.
I always think about, there was a story about these guys. They were hostages. They were being held hostage. I can't remember the exact situation. And what they were doing was they were telling jokes because that's all they had. And so, I think sometimes the two things that go on for comics. One is, you have to be careful what you say nowadays. If you're in the workplace or whatever, even expressing a point of view that can be fairly innocuous can be taken the wrong way. It can catch fire and you can be out of a job. But the problem is, if you say that to comedians, if you put comedians in those dangerous waters, I promise you, it's probably the best thing for comedy. Because the minute you tell me I can't say something, when I do a corporate gig and they tell me I can't swear, it's the worst thing you can do. Because now we're going to have a huge problem. Because I'm definitely going to, I'm bringing out all the words. And now, because things are so delicate and taboo, just come to the Comedy Store in about 6 months and come tell me how respectful all the comedians of all different colors and sexes and shades are going to be treating this. The great thing about comedy is once things die down, and the great thing about Americans is that we kind of default. We default to the middle. We default in the gray area. It's this country is an experiment. People have to remember that. This great republic of ours, this great country of ours, is a great country because we're not a noun. The United States of America is an experiment. It is a verb. It's a beautiful idea. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that all men are created equal. I know that was written by men who owned slaves, but what it means and the power of it is that, we're all of the same moral worth. That's what these protests and these things are about. At the end of the day, all of us know that's the argument that wins. You can't prove it. You can't prove it biologically and mathematically. But we know that when you have a society that's based on the idea that all men are created equal, you get the goodies, man. You need some irreverence. You need to be able to speak truth to power, because what happens is that is where innovation comes from. You've always got to be able to give the middle finger to the people, the higher ups, the people that are in charge. If you don't, you'll get China. So irreverence, man. Irreverence is so important to the American spirit. And Americans are always wary of their government, on the right and the left. And that's not a bad thing. You should be suspicious. You should treat your government and your leaders as a necessary evil, not some huge engine for good. And I think that's inherent in the American spirit, and it's certainly inherent in comedy. The reason comedy, look, improv and stand-up comedy is an American and maybe a British, but definitely an American art form. Why? Because we are an irreverent people. And so the job of a comedian is not just to make people laugh. It's to make people think, and it's to disturb. It's to shake you up. That's why we love Bill Burr. That's why we love Chris Rock.
Chappelle, you name it.
Chappelle, man. Chappelle, what a classic example. This is not an accident that all of us go, that guy's a genius. Why? Because he says things worth thinking. Because he says things that we didn't know we could say out loud. That's courageous. So that's where original self-expression, original comedy is invaluable, especially in a time like this. And let me say one more thing. You want to talk about something that's unifying. One of the great things that makes me want to cry almost is when I look out at my audience and a fighter and a kid audience. It's pretty dang diverse. I wish there were more black faces, but it's pretty diverse, man. And what happens is they all laugh together. They all laugh, man. They all laugh. Because Brendan and I always make it a point, because we got a lot of pros who listen. We always make it a point, and I always say this, that we're a great country, not just because we're a strong country, not just because we have the best military in the world, not just because we're the home of the NFL, not just because we've got the biggest guns, but also because we've always been a country that provides safe quarter for our gentler spirits, for those people that are different than we are, man. Those people who are gay and who are transgender and who are fashionistas and who are of different colors. We've always been the refuge. You can be weird in this country and not get stomped. like you can in, say, I don't know, Chechnya or Dagestan. All due respect.
Nobody's watching from Chechnya or the other. You don't have to say all due respect, but I do believe that comedy and sense of respect can go hand in hand, and I think that is going to be the world going forward, especially as we're trying to make it as good as possible. And as I look from afar, the Comedy Store just seems like this place where all these brilliant minds kind of meet up and link up. And aside from the Rogan deal that he just got broken off, and Chappelle with Netflix, and then you talk about Burr from Netflix, the amount of money coming out of the brains, yourself, Schaub getting a special, Segura getting a special, Kreischer getting the amount of money that's invested in the brains in the Comedy Store, you guys kind of set the tone for everybody else. And I think after this, it's going to be a tall task for you guys. And I don't fathom there's anybody else that's ready to do it.
It's a renaissance, man. It's a renaissance. Something happens sometimes when you get these clusters. It happened in math in Scotland in the 1800s. It happened in Italy in the 15 and 1600s. I'm not comparing what goes on at the Comedy Store. There's no high math at the Comedy Store. You're talking about a bunch of misfits. I mean, comedians are usually beautiful messes. They're just we're all misfits, man. So I'm not. You don't want us running the country, but yes, that dysfunction, that collective dysfunction at the Comedy Store seems to be, in many ways, at least, if not a beacon, at least a great place to go to forget your troubles and laugh your ass off for 2 hours. And maybe, just maybe, think a little bit.
Oh.
What I love about all these great comedians is that everybody's fair-minded, man. It's not that we're politically correct, but everybody is fair. We're fair-minded. It's just fair play. It's like, should the state be involved in the marriage business? I don't think so. You're a guy. If you like Pat McAfee's shoulders, he's got shoulders for days. He's a thick kid, blonde hair.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to get married, get married.
I agree with that. And
by the way, you're a thick. What do you weigh as a kicker? I mean, what do you weigh, for God's sake? You look like a linebacker.
So when I played, I was 235-ish, but now I'm like 250. 250 now. I mean, it's all in this though. You see that?
Look at all there. Look at the legs.
You see that? That's what we're talking about. Big ass too, Brian. Big old ass on me here.
I'm producing estrogen as we speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Fighter and the Kid is amazing. I can't wait to see you do some comedy after this whole thing, get back to it. And thanks for finally saying our show was good enough for you to come on. Finally.
About time.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Callen.
Yeah!
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Comedians it's a real role in our society, by the way. To be able to have the courage to point out the things that maybe are very serious and make light of them. Thanks to him. Thanks to Shams. Thanks to D-Butt. Thanks to everybody to listen and watch all week. We'll be back on Monday. This has been the Pat McAfee Show, Friday, June 5th.